a sweater on, like, so I didn't see him. And he's, he comes out of the bathroom and he's got his gi on and all this stuff. And he goes, "You want to roll? I'll roll." And I'm like, I'm thinking in my mind, like, I'm going to take it easy. Don't want to hurt him. Like all this stuff. Like, I'm just going to match his pace. He proceeds to knee cut past me so violently and then wrist lock me within 10 seconds. I said, okay, that's not going to happen again. And we rolled. And sure enough, he did it a second time. And I said, "Who are you?" He's like, "Oh, my name's," he's like, "I'm Bob, I'm nobody." Yeah. He's like, I've won a couple IBJJF world championships. And, it's like, I compete a lot. I said, "Okay, holy crap. Like you clowned me in front of my entire gym. You're double my age. It's like, I'm going to learn everything I can from you." Like, there was a moment where I had to be like, okay, that was really humbling. And I'm not going to get angry. Like, I had to tell myself, like, I'm not going to get upset about this because I have an opportunity here to learn from somebody.
Hi, and welcome back to the Still Rolling BJJ podcast. I'm Matthew Montgomery. Today on Still Rolling, I'm joined by Sean McCleary. He's a black belt under Scott Devine, owner of McCleary Jiu-Jitsu in Camden, Georgia, competitor on Fight to Win, Submission Underground, and Fury Pro Grappling. And you're also the founder of Schismatic Industries. Sean's story goes deeper than just medals. He's built a family, a business, and a faith-driven life around jiu-jitsu, and we're going to talk about how he keeps it all grounded. Sean, welcome to Still Rolling.
Appreciate you having me. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So getting into a little bit of your background, I saw that you started out, you were a boxer at one point.
Yeah. I started that at 19, and I had just these big delusions of grandeur that I was going to be an MMA fighter and do well as far as that goes. And I literally only trained boxing and took some MMA fights, and record was 3-2, like nothing crazy, but like 3 out of the 5 martial arts fight or mixed martial arts fights that I had was I was a white belt in jiu-jitsu. Like, I didn't even train. And that was like the biggest mistake. And the final 2, like when I was 22, so like 3 years into boxing, discovered jiu-jitsu. Then after like a kind of a hiatus of fighting, I went back as a purple belt and then won the last 2 on sub. And I was like, I just look back on it and think, it's like, I should have just done that from the beginning. That would have gone way better. But I started boxing. I found that, believe it or not, my mom, when I moved down for college, was like, "Hey, I joined a boxing gym," and that's totally out of character for her, but it was good fitness. And she invited me to come to one class. And when I came in there, boxing instructor, because I was trying to get into powerlifting at the time. Weightlifting helped me lose a lot of weight and become in shape in high school. And he said, he noticed I was a bigger guy. He was like, "I bet you can't do a single one of my workouts." I was like, okay. I took the challenge, and sure enough, like 20 minutes in, I was dying. And it hooked me. I was like, this is hard. I can't do it. I want to get better at it. This is something physical. And it was fun. It's like, just like jiu-jitsu, you don't realize you're working out when you're doing it because it's something else to think about. And that's what hooked me on boxing. And, I still love it. Just don't do it as much. Head trauma is not kind of in the cards for me right now with everything I got going on. But, it's still like I help guys get ready with striking, hold pads, all that. I'm helping a guy get ready for an MMA fight November 8th. It's like, because it's still fun to train it, just not heavy sparring and actually going and fighting.
Yeah, I mean the longevity in these sports, the combat sports especially, jiu-jitsu seems like it's something that you can do kind of until the wheels fall off, where something exactly. like a boxing or any striking art, really that's going to be a more short career.
100%.
So you got hooked on jiu-jitsu. Tell me about kind of your growth, going from a mixed martial artist that was a striker to now. I mean, now you're competing in some of the good circuits in jiu-jitsu. You just won the Toro Cup last weekend. Was it like 4 days ago? So how do you make that transition?
I mean, it was
as far as or the growth through your belt, I guess I should say.
It was definitely interesting. I stopped really training, I think, boxing when I was a purple belt. And I mean, I progressed through the belts kind of fast, probably a little quicker than I should have. And this is based off of like comparativeness with competing and stuff like that. And just kind of the levels that I fought and looking now. But I met my wife in the boxing gym, and she, trying to talk to her, we connected, and she pretty much told me, is like, if you don't train jujitsu, you're never gonna see me. And so it's like, okay, understood. You know, like I liked her, so
Yeah.
I bought a gi and went to class. And at first, like for the first like 3 weeks, I was like, I don't like this at all. And then I hit my first submission. It's like I was like, nothing's clicking. This stinks. I don't like it. All I'm doing is just getting the crap beat out of me. And it's like, because for years I was hitting things in boxing. I was like, well, I can't do what the only thing that I know how to do. And eventually, finally hit like a submission. Something clicked. It was an armbar from mount. Like a dude pushed me. It was textbook, and I mean, it was still crap because I was a white belt. But it's something clicked, and then it was like, okay, maybe there is a glimmer of hope in this. And then, as far as like training with my wife and, all that stuff. And the group turned out to be pretty cool. And once I realized that it's like, hey, I can train and I can compete theoretically every weekend without risk of serious brain trauma, it kind of, the light was shown to me that way. It's like, cause I was doing kickboxing, boxing, mixed martial arts. Like I was always injured with something, and then always like my boxing instructor, I love him to death, but he was old school. So we would spar 100% 3 times a week. Like we had the big gloves, the big headgear. And like if we were pulling our punches, he was upset. And I'm like, that's a problem. Like I remember getting plenty of concussions, and being able to train jujitsu was a really nice alternative kind of once that sunk in and realized the longevity of how much I could do it. And that's, so the support system, the lack of injury, and then things finally clicking is what really solidified me training. And it eventually like got to the point where, jujitsu did take over for striking, and about purple belt is when I stopped doing so that was 2 years in for me. I stopped striking altogether, and I just went all in on grappling. Uh, as far as moving through the belts, like I said, I moved through them kind of quick. I got my blue belt in 5 months, and that was, again, it was really fast, but I was really athletic. Like I said, I was in shape from boxing, and I would pretty much just not even out technique people, but I would out cardio them in the room, and nobody could hold me down. Like I was just passing people's guards because I was just, you know, I was just constantly moving, and it wasn't even good, but I was just moving a lot. And it, then once that submission kind of started the next couple months, it's like things started to click a little bit more, got my blue belt. And I think that was the most exciting belt for me besides black belt, but that was when it took off as well. And so transitioning through the belts, like once I hit purple, we were all in. I don't know.
Do you think that being a boxer and a mixed martial artist, do you think that on some levels as a white belt, having the boxing experience, and especially MMA experience, maybe where you're doing wall work and those kinds of things, even though you weren't training jiu-jitsu, you were still thinking about how to avoid takedowns, and then obviously, so you have an understanding a little bit more than the guy that walks into jiu-jitsu completely fresh. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like a day oneer, sure.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that you would have a little bit more because it wasn't necessarily like formal grappling, but being, in a ring and trying to not get cornered. And then, this, like, we would do MMA rounds. So it's like I was getting some grappling in, but it wasn't technical at all.
Okay.
Like we were just learning how to get back up. So it helped to a degree, but anybody that had a shred of knowledge, is like a white belt that had been training maybe like a month or two would have, when I first walked in there, were smoking me.
Okay.
And then once I had a direction, like it got better, but there's, I don't know, MMA training, and I say this a lot because like even on the live streams, people are like, you train MMA, right? I was like, no, there's no such thing as training MMA. You train the individual arts. There is no, like, people, I don't necessarily agree with classes that are labeled MMA class because it's a conglomeration of martial arts. Like you can't teach 3 different martial arts in one class. It takes time. Don't cheapen the art. Like you have to train. Like there's no substitute for going into a jiu-jitsu class if you're an MMA fighter. Like you have to do it. Same for wrestling. Same for striking. And so it's Yeah, realizing that, like, going to jujitsu, and that I was, even though I had experience grappling, the new guys were waxing the floor with me, so it was eye opening.
That's one of the reasons why I hate the argument when you're talking about mixed martial arts that, wrestling is now better than jujitsu and, among the UFC. And it's like, man, every single one of those guys trains enough jujitsu at a minimum to survive. Um, if they didn't, they would get beat. Just like the jujitsu guy has to learn some striking so he doesn't get knocked out. Um, so Mary pulled you into jujitsu. Was she? Usually you kind of hear the story sort of the other way around, where a lot of times our partners get into jujitsu because we want to train. It's actually a cool thing to hear that she pulled you into jujitsu. Um, was she belted and where how far ahead was she?
So when we started dating, she was a four-stripe blue belt. She was about to get her purple, and
Okay.
I was, yeah, brand new white belt. So,
Okay.
yep.
Did she beat you to black belt?
She did by 2 years.
Okay.
So she was right at, I think, 9 years and some change, and I got my black belt in 6 years and 9 months, and that was, so it was quick, but it was, yeah, she was definitely ahead of me, because she's a second degree black belt now, and I just got my first in January.
Okay. And does she compete as well, or?
She used to. She actually did IBJJF Atlanta a couple months ago, just to kind of try it again. I think she's mainly focused, like, she gets the bug every once in a while to compete, and I fully support it. Like, whenever she wants to, it's like, all right, let's go, let's do it. But she's more of like the coach in the gym. Like, she goes with me to every competition, just about. She's always in my corner. She always gives like good advice. And what's funny is, like, most of the things she teaches at school is I end up hitting in the matches.
That's
And
awesome.
so it's pretty cool. Like, so she's very good at what she does. She's very good at coaching, and she's just got a very tactical mind with the sport.
That's awesome to have a partner, with balancing time in owning an academy, but also trying to train to compete at a high level. You're not probably as split as some other guys, as far as
It,
balancing
it's
those
a
two.
it's a huge blessing, because it's, I don't think I could do it between running, the rash guard company, running the gym, and competing. It would just never happen. And Mary helps in each of those aspects. Like, and I fully credit her with being able to do it, because I could not do it alone.
Yeah. You guys have kids?
We do. We have one daughter.
Okay, great. She training?
She's been training 2 years. She's about to turn 7,
Okay.
and we got her in the kids class. Oh my goodness, almost 3 years now. We started her at 4.
Okay.
And she just got her yellow belt a couple months ago. That's the one thing I try to hold her to a really high standard, because the last thing I ever want a kid in the kids class to say is, "You only got that belt because your dad's a coach,"
Yeah.
which is also an interesting dynamic, because she does. There was, like, for the first little bit, she didn't want to listen to me, because she saw me as dad, not as
Mm-hmm.
the coach, and it was funny because a few times, like, of her not listening, got down on her level and was like, "Look, I'm not dad in here. I am your coach." And she took it a little far, because now she does not call me dad on the mat. She calls me coach. And when she did
Okay.
it, I was like, okay, that's awkward, but I'm not, do I correct this? Do I not? Because it's like, it's reinforcing what I wanted, but she's listened ever since. So I thought it was funny. Like, she took me really seriously when I said that. So, but she's doing well, and she wants to compete soon. So I think that would be fun to get ready for. I'd probably be more nervous for her than I would be on anything I've ever done.
I can imagine. Do you think that your wife, does she push you to compete?
She does not. If anything, she tells me I compete too much because I am not resting. Um, she's like, do a couple big ones a year. And it's gotten to the point, it's like, where I agree with her. Like, back when I first got my black belt and all that stuff, and I still have the pole, it's like, I want
Mm-hmm.
to compete every month. Like, I have to do everything that I possibly can to try to get my name out there, to try to get noticed for, like, bigger shows. And it's like, I think that I've put in a lot of work, and I can focus on, like, bigger shows. And I think that, not to sound like arrogant or anything like that, or like, feel I've paid my dues. I always, try to pay my dues if it's a new competition or anything like that. But it's more, it's not even a time thing. I need to kind of step back and take more time in between competitions to learn and hone like what I need, instead of trying to always perfect the A game for the next competition.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of an error, or like the error of what she's saying, like, or the spirit of what she's saying. And I agree with her, like, cause she's definitely got my best interests, in mind. Like, she's always in my corner, always supporting me, which is fantastic. But it's not like, at first I took it as like, oh, you don't want me to compete because like, oh, I'm away, or we're traveling or anything like that. But it's no, it's literally, it's like, hey, you're gonna burn yourself out if you keep doing this. And it's like, you need to keep doing jiu-jitsu. We have a school to run. Take a little bit more time, focus on like the bigger tournaments. Like, I'm going to ADCC trials next month in 3 weeks, and then Worlds in December. And so it's like, in between those, I'm not going to do any local or small tournaments, because I need to focus on those.
Was there a point, because you alluded to maybe getting promoted too fast a couple of times? Was there a point in your competition where you really struggled?
There, oddly enough, like at brown belt, I felt that. I got my brown belt in about 4 years,
That's
when like
crazy.
yeah, I did well at purple. Like, I did really
Okay.
well at purple. And I I had some big super fights, or as big as it goes, like, because I was on the, what's the, like, the, because there's two Furies. Like, there's Fury that's in the Northeast, and then there's Fury Grappling in Texas. And I was on the one that, it came to Atlanta, but it was the one from out in Texas. I did well on that one. And then like, I did my first fight to win as a purple belt and all this stuff. And I felt really confident moving up, and did a few invitationals, and felt good. But when I got my brown belt, the first competition that I felt like, holy crap, there's a whole new level to this, was IBJJF Atlanta. Like, I rolled with Levi Moira, and it was eye opening. Like, he subbed me the first round. I was on bottom the whole time, which did not happen at that point. Like, I was always on top. I was always like sweeping from guard. I did great, but he broke me down and crushed me for, I think, like 5 minutes, and then subbed me. And that sucked. And then I subbed him in the first round of the absolute, which got me back like feeling good. But
Yeah.
I went back, and I was like, so this was a completely, like, just the feeling of it. I was like, this is completely different. These people, like, there's no more hobbyists at brown belt that compete at adult, or it's at least very rare. And so I had to go back and not focus on being athletic and strong and quick. I had to focus and pretty much like relearn all of my jujitsu to be more technical. And the same thing with like with black belt, is like, I've done well. Like, when I first got my black belt, like, I did well in a few matches, but then I also would get a taste of like somebody who did it professionally. And then I'd be like, I'm nowhere near that level, and it's
Yeah.
like, I'll like, so at purple belt, for example, in IBJJF Atlanta, I actually competed against, oh man, he's the current, 99 ADCC champ, Giancarlo Bodoni. I had a match at purple belt with him in IBJJF Atlanta when he was under Hillian Gracie. And at that point, like, I obviously, I lost that one horribly, like 26-0. And then he triangled me. But
Jeez.
I asked him, I was like, how long have you been training at this point? Cause he just felt everything was robotic. And he said, oh, 10 years. And I was like, holy crap. I've only been training 2. And he's been training like the average time it takes to get a black belt. And he's almost like, he was a four stripe, purple belt. And I was like,
Hmm.
this is insane. Like, you know, and kind of those instances made me realize, is like, it's okay to take more time at a belt, just to get the experience, especially if you're going to be a competitor. It's like, because there's a difference in sandbagging. Like, if I'm winning worlds and my coach isn't promoting me just because he wants more world titles, or I want more world titles, like, that's sandbagging. But truly making sure it's like that I am at the art, like at the level where I could hang with any belt thrown at me, or like the belt that I have thrown at me, like anybody in the world would,
Yeah.
and hold my own against them, I think is important. And it's also important for not like watering down the sport. Like, I don't think me getting my black belt watered it down. It was like, I still was competition savvy when I got it, but I wouldn't have also been opposed to waiting longer.
Yeah.
It's like
Well,
really feeling like I was like, okay, I feel like a black belt now, but
you
that also never
compete.
comes.
I mean, you compete. You got it really fast, but nobody's gonna suddenly be calling you Money Burger,
Yeah.
something like that. It's
Oh, for one, I don't wear socks on the mat, so
okay.
there's
Yeah. Usually that means you've got something, right? There's I've seen some socks on the mat before, um, but I always figured that was something that maybe they got like a fungus. Yeah. So I mean, you competed all the way through the belt. So moving through ranks that fast, if you're still doing well competing, did you also do EBI?
I did. I was on the last absolutes, the one
Okay,
where Ryan Aiken won it, but I wasn't in the bracket. I had a special match, and that was fun. I won that one by a rear naked choke.
that's
And that was
awesome.
probably hands down the most important victory like I've had in jiu-jitsu so far. Like it was since I was a white belt. It's like because I followed Eddie Bravo since the beginning.
Hmm.
Like when I started training, I remember my wife sitting me down and watching Eddie Bravo versus Hoyler on Metamoris, and I was like, that
Hmm.
is the coolest thing ever. That's what made me want to do super fights. And then when Eddie Bravo came out with EBI, I was like, man, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to do that. And I got one of our well, so starting from the beginning, I was actually on the previous absolutes, or it might have been the heavyweights qualifier in El Paso, and I lost that qualifier first round and was heartbroken. Brandon McCaffrey actually made me feel way better. Told me the one of the best pieces of advice for like losing in tournaments. He said sometimes your most heartbreaking losses are what's needed to kind of define how you work to get back into winning. It's like they're needed.
Hmm.
Um, and then I got a tip from one of my blue belts that moved to San Antonio. And he's part of a 10th Planet school out there. And he said, Sean, they're holding 10th Planet qualifiers in Austin. You need to message a guy named Curtis and it's like, try to get in on that. And I did. And they got me out there. And it was great. And I ended up making it to the semifinals. And I lost to the guy that won, I think won the whole bracket. And his name was Adrian Nez. And it was 2 weeks, I think, before the competition. I didn't think that I was gonna I was heartbroken. I was like, I did well. I went 3-1 for the day. It's like I lost to the guy that won it. I felt like I had a good showing. It's like hopefully I get invited. And time went and time went and time went. And 2 weeks before, like I finally got a message saying, like, hey, do you want to be on EBI? And I was like, I I don't care if I got to drive, pay for my
Right.
plane tickets. Like, I don't care. I will be there. I will absolutely be there. Like, I was so excited. And then to be there was surreal because it was literally because at that point I've been training 10 years. It was a 10-year long goal that had just come true. And I did not sleep that night. I was so excited.
Yeah. I can only imagine. I mean, obviously we see a lot of other circuits now, but back when Metamoris was around. I mean, you had IBJJF, you had some like new breed tournaments and things like that, but like it wasn't then what it is now. As far as all the different circuits. How does Fight to Win set their cards? Because I see their cards come through, and you'll have there's blue belt matches. There's um, and they're a big circuit. People watch them. But how do they figure out how they're going to do their cards through the
From
ranks?
from my experiences, like, yeah, they have blue all the way to black belt. And I think they start with like kids matches and blues in the beginning and then work the way like, cause I've been on three black belt matches. No, I think two black belt matches. And, we're always towards the end.
Hmm.
Like I started at purple and I was midway and then black belt was towards the end. So they work up the experience levels and I'm not sure how they do the matchmaking. It's like, I know during COVID, that was an interesting time as they used to just to be able to bring it back and have cards. They were willing to be able to put you on like a guaranteed match if you flew out to wherever they were going to have the card. Like I competed in Austin against Connor DeAngelis, which was one of Keenan Cornelius's brown belts at the time, and he had won worlds at every belt level. And like Seth Daniels messaged me, is like, hey, you want this match? And I was like, Absolutely. But I had sent in my application, and then they put you in a pool. They email you. They're like, hey, if you're willing to buy a plane ticket and you show us proof that you've bought the plane ticket, like you're coming, we will give you a match. And this was like, again, just because this was early 2021 and they just wanted to bring it back. And Austin was one of the first places to start opening up. And I bought my plane ticket, went out there. It was an awesome time. And then once everything started opening back up, like, and everything came back to normal, or as much as it, you can consider normal. Now it's based back on like who do they think is going to be the best matchup, for their respective person, which I like,
Yeah.
as much as it was nice to have a match on a card, like guaranteed. I still like, the matchmaking processes, and I think they do an excellent job with it.
That's good. They've grown where, again, I've known people around the country that have been on the cards. I'm a hobbyist. So, I'm at an age now where, trying to be king of the old men is not where I'm at.
There's no shame in that at all. I sometimes I do miss doing jiu-jitsu just for fun. Like I'll have a couple times in the year where I was like, my gosh, why do I do this to myself? But that's like going back on what my wife told me, like, hey, slow down a little bit. And that's when I realized, like, oh, you're right. I should.
Right. You have some time to have fun. So what did earning your black belt under Scott Devine mean to you personally?
So at the time, like it meant a lot. I, as a black belt, and from someone that I respected, was a huge deal. It's like everybody that I looked up to, like had their black belt. It meant that, I could finally open my school. It meant that, it's like, it was just a accumulation of effort and time, and like kind of that, the signification is like, I made it, and it's, and it's weird because when you get your black belt, people are always like, I always heard this, like, hey, you start over, and you're like, what do you mean? Like you're you're the tip of the spear at that point. It's like, no, it's like getting your degree and then learning on the job, like that difference. Like you can learn you can learn so much stuff, and then it's, I think black belt, you get to that point when you know how to learn. Like you can pick apart like techniques and, like take pieces of information and learn how to effortlessly like bring it into your game. Like I think that it's just a greater level of understanding. And like when that happened, it's like so much, and it still took some time for me to really to get to that point. Like when I got my black belt, that's why it's like, could have waited a little longer, but I don't know. Long story short, it was great. I was super happy, but a couple years down the line is when I got to that point of like, oh, now I get it. Now I felt like I start over. Like I would revisit things that I did as a white and blue belt, but now it can make sense, and I know how to, get it into my game without, really struggling as much. So it was interesting. Once you get it, it's kind of a weird thing, but it's also not to put like mysticism on the belt. It's a piece of cloth. What's important is definitely, it's like that you are held up to that standard when you get it. You are that, that level of technique when you get it, and that's what's important. It's not the belt itself that's important, but, and like my coach and black belt now, Brian Bury, says, is like, it's the knowledge that comes with, or the knowledge that comes with that level that you're obtaining, that you're chasing, not the piece of cloth itself. And that's my favorite Gracie quote ever. I don't have many of them, but and I forget which one said it, but the belt only covers 2 inches of your ass, and you've got to cover the rest.
Yeah, that's actually, so the entire time you were talking about that, I was like, this is that quote. I mean,
yep.
And
I'm just way more long-winded.
Well, no, but I mean, you hit the nail on the head. And also, I'm not a black belt, but I've also heard people talk about how you're doing somebody a disservice if you promote them ahead of a belt that they can carry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And unfortunately we see that more and more, and in like the more popular jiu-jitsu becomes, the more common you're going to see it. I mean, it's inevitable, but that's why as like gym owners, black belts and everything like that, it's like, I feel like a level of, discretion needs to happen before a promotion happens. Like my school, we promote slow because if I give somebody a blue belt and we're in a Navy town, they move away, the last thing I want them to experience is go into a different gym and be like, who gave you your blue belt? Like, you're
I've seen
not,
guys roll
you
in that
know,
are like that. Where you're just like, this is like not even a 2-stripe white belt, and he's got more rank than I do. I make a specific effort not to assassinate people's character anytime I can help it. But one of the things that I have loved about this whole Moneyberg situation is that the jiu-jitsu community at large has really kind of pushed back and said, hey, we're not Taekwondo. We are not McDojos. We do not want that.
I'll give it to Moneyberg. I think the positive thing that he's done that very few people have been able to do is he didn't divide anybody in the jiu-jitsu community. If anything, he united literally everybody.
Yeah. Even Ariel Helwani just had an hour-long show with him on. I don't know if you saw it, but
I did.
He
that was
really
incredible.
Pushed on him.
There were times where I didn't really like what, the type of interviews that Ariel was doing, but that one was spot on.
Yeah, and he didn't back down. He held his ground, because there were a couple of times where, when Moneyberg said, you've got a black belt, and he said, yeah, here on my desk, which means about as much as what you got. And so I'm glad that pushback is there, because if the pushback wasn't there, that would mean we're headed down a road of the McDojos and things like that. And years ago, I mean, it was a big deal if you found out that a gym was charging for, a belt promotion, or, like the world has changed. And so you mentioned that you already had your sights on opening a gym, before you had your black. I mean, you didn't open until you had your black belt, but when did you decide that was what you were going to do, and how did you accomplish that? What did you do for a living before?
So I was a nurse, and I was a nurse. Gosh, I started jiu-jitsu in 2014, and I ended up finishing school because I was already in college at the time. Like, I graduated high school in 2010, aging myself just a little, but like in 2016, I started as a nurse in the emergency room, and I was training during all that time. And oddly enough, nursing schedule, if you don't work any overtime, 312s for the week, like, opens up so much time for jiu-jitsu. And that's another reason, like, I think that I got the belts quick, is because not only did I compete a lot, but if there was a class, I was there.
Yeah.
Zero questions. But yeah, nursing was definitely the means to an end. Like when I knew I always wanted to open some kind of gym for a long time. When I was a boxer, I was like, man, this would be so cool to have a boxing gym. And then when I got into jiu-jitsu, it's like that kind of slowly shifted over, to like, hey, grappling gym would be amazing. And then when I was a brown belt, it's like I really started to think of the logistics of doing that and phasing out the current career I was in. And then when, my wife and I would have a discussion, like, is pretty early on into my brown belt, my wife got her black belt. She's like, okay, well, we can open a school, but it would probably be better if we waited until we were both black belts. Like, cause that's a huge, not only it's like from a knowledge standpoint experience, but it's a good advertising thing. It's like, not only are you getting one black belt, you're getting two black belts. And, and I said, that's fair. And this will give us time to save up, money, find a location, like all this stuff. And so we just kind of came up with a game plan over the next like 2 years. And when we finally got my black belt, I think 6 months into that, we like rubber hit the road. We realized like we didn't want to be in the same town as our instructor at the time, so we wanted to move away so we didn't step on any toes of the Divine Association. And we moved to about 30 minutes south in a town called St. Mary's, or really refer to it as Camden County, because Kingsland and St. Mary's are two towns that are butted up right next to each other. And the only way you can tell that it's different is there's a sign in the middle of the town. Like, you cross over from Kingsland to St. Mary's and you're like, oh, I didn't realize, but we found a gym or a spot that didn't care if we renovated. We could build out the building however we wanted. It just had to be on our dime. And rent was $800 a month, and it was 1,600
Oh,
square foot. Oh yeah. And
that's a,
so
yeah.
we had a big bay door, and the caveat to that was that it was abandoned for 8 years. So we had a lot of fixing to do. Like we tore down walls, we had to fix electrical issues, fix up like the AC. So there's like some money had to go into it, but realizing that this is what we wanted to do, we put money away to do it. And so we were able to move quickly and open the gym. And we were extremely blessed, like when that happened, because we already had a bunch of community support. We've when we opened the doors, like I don't know what we did, but thank God it happened. We had people coming in and signing up and thought it was pretty cool because there was already a few jiu-jitsu gyms in the area, but we were new. They liked what we were, advertising. They liked the look of the gym and the vibe and kept signing up. And we've never been at risk of having to close our doors from day one. And we've been a gym for almost 5 years now, which has
That's a
been,
huge blessing.
yeah. Oh yeah. Like we've never wondered, like we've never had to pay in to keep the lights on or the doors open. Like it's always been self-sustaining, which has been huge. Like, and I can't thank the members of the gym enough, and I'm surprised people will put up with me for that long. It's, I credit my wife for selling the memberships. She's made way more likable.
Well, and opening a gym, you have to have, there's a saying that are you working for the business or are you working in the business, or on the business? And so you have to have some business acumen to, it becomes a bigger part of your life and your schedule to manage a business. I mean,
Well,
so
it
how did,
was. Oh,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead.
You're fine. So how did Schismatic Industries start? And what does American Made mean to you in practice?
So we started Schismatic Industries off of, so we had, when we were still in Brunswick, and this was before we were like, Mary and I were both black belts, we had Emily Kwok down for a seminar. So she's one of Marcelo Garcia. She's with Marcelo Garcia in training, but she owns Princeton BJJ now. And she was one of the first like females to go to ADCC, and just a huge hero to Mary. And believe it or not, she actually gave me a lot of my current like mental practices and outlook on competition, which is amazing. Like she's an amazing competitor, and so just being able to pick her brain for that time. But anyway, she brought down two of her friends, which happened to be Hillary Witt and Nelson Puentes, which own Inverted Gear. And that was talking with them and seeing like kind of the lifestyle they were able to have and how they were able to work together. They were able to stay home with their kid. It's like just kind of have a life that was not unrestricted, but it was like they had freedom, and they were in a business where it's like they loved what they were doing. And we not only did we want that, it's like, but I like designing things. I've always had like an appreciation for art. Couldn't do it worth a darn, but it's, once we kind of talk with them, they inspired us to start our own. So like I directly credit Inverted Gear with the Schismatics opening. And it was interesting at first. Like we waited a little bit. Like after me, it wasn't like we met him and it was like boom, a week after Schismatic was a thing. Like I taught myself graphic design through YouTube and
Okay.
trial and error, and like spending money on courses and Adobe and all this stuff, to eventually to the point where it was like, okay, I think we can do this. And then we started with our business. We became like the official grand opening legally for Schismatic Industries was October of 2019. And I'll give you a good guess on when my first shipment of gear to sell came in.
Oh, probably 21.
March of 2020.
Okay, I was just saying because COVID was, yeah.
I remember hearing like about COVID, and I was like, man, I hope that really doesn't affect any of our shipments coming in. And sure enough, like beginning of the month, shipment came in. I was like, this is so awesome. I'm going to advertise this. We're going to sell. I mean, not only did I realize that online sales are actually really hard to do, And then two, everything shut down. Like I think I gave away most of our product to just be able to just move it and to get our name out there. But because of the time, it's like nobody was training and it's like nobody was buying anything. So it's like it was almost like a doom and gloom from the start for me. Like I tend to disastertize things a little bit if they don't, if I don't see results right away. I mean, toxic trait. But it's I was nervous. And so we kept chugging along. We didn't shut it down. And then when stuff started finally opening back up, we would get, we'd try a new design and we would try to kind of strike while the iron was hot on like hot topics. Like we had, like during COVID, the Tiger King was, everybody watched that show. I don't
Yes.
care who you are,
Yeah.
but we did a tiger themed rash guard and it had a quote modified for jiu-jitsu from the show. And I think we sold out of that in 48 hours.
Okay.
And we're like, okay, we can do this. Like that was the first moment where like, we can do this. And we've kept on ever since. It's gotten a little harder to run the more the gym's grown. So it's being one person, even though we have two people like Mary, because Mary's all in on the gym and Mary does help me, a little bit with ideas with Schismatic and stuff like that. But it's what beast do I feed? And so I'm learning time management a little bit better to kind of be able to do both. But I don't know, it's been huge. Like it's opened up a lot of opportunities and it's always fun to see, like, to bring things to life, like in a company, or like rash guards and for grapplers.
It's interesting to me that you mention that, if you don't see results right away, you struggle. And you are a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now,
That
granted,
carries.
you went really fast, but I mean, to get
Yeah.
there, I mean, that takes patience no matter how long it takes you. You own a gym. And, even though it's always paid the bills, I'm sure that there have been ups and downs.
Yeah. Oh, for
And you
sure.
have a rash guard company that you did not give up on. And so you say that, but there are things that you're doing where you are completing and thriving in areas where a lot of people would have quit.
It's interesting when you look at the big picture like that, but I promise you from like week to week, I'm like, okay, I quit.
Yeah.
I'm done. And then Mary will talk me off the ledge.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
no, you're gonna keep doing it. And I'm like, okay, well, what about this? And she'll kind of beat me down with logic, and which is and force me kind of back on, and I'm like, okay, she's right. It's not that bad. Like if I have an order that goes not the way that I want it to, or maybe somebody's not completely happy, it's like it affects me, and I'm like, oh, even almost 7 years into this business is like, it's like stuff like that still bothers me. Or if I, you know, we like I said, yeah, an order goes bad. I'm still like, well, I think I'm going to call it quits. Like, I can't make everybody happy. That's originally what I wanted. It's like I have unrealistic expectations for just about everything. And so I still get upset and struggle. But fortunately, my support system, which is Mary, is very grounded and level headed and has kept me going, or else I probably would have quit everything a long time.
well, it's so number one, Mary sounds like she is a very bright, caring, and a thought focused person. Um, but you guys are both pulling on an equal yoke, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you know how it's been. I've seen it a couple of places online when I was doing research that faith is a big part of your life. And how does that work with how you guys run your business and your family?
We and that's actually something that's become a topic lately, and it's like, and what we're trying to do is like we've got to let God lead. It's like if I'm trying to do everything myself and kind of, take the reins and force everything to kind of the way that I want it to be, and how it normally ends up how it's not meant to work out. And so it's like just learn. It's been, and it's a repetitive process. Like I'll get to the point where I get stressed, I'll, kind of hammer down on a project instead of just, it's like letting go, letting things that are going to happen, trusting that God's going to, guide me through this. And, I don't know, we're like recently came to that point, and part of the whole American made things, like when we switched over to the American manufacturer, there were hiccups, long wait times, and it's like we still kind of battle, because it's, even though we've been working with them exclusively for a while, it's like I constantly trying to push boundaries on designs. And if something doesn't go right, like I'll lean into it more and try to get more control over it instead of just letting it be, trusting on the outcome, praying to God is like, just, we need, just let's, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and it's going to happen for his good, and that takes a lot of stress off of me. And then it ends up working out the way it should, which, not as always necessarily the way that I want it to happen, but it's the way that it needs to happen. So it's helped us keep our sanity. It's helped us maintain like a good moral compass with everything, like running a gym. It's like, obviously it's like, if you're running a gym, you've got to be on the straight and narrow. It's like, because you're coaching people in a sport of physical violence, and you've got to be, not a piece of crap person. And that's helped us, a lot with that. And then just treating people right, that's always helped. And like I said, it's like just the blessing of having a successful gym. I know I couldn't have done that alone. So realizing that, it's like, I've got to give credit to God for that, because it's, would never have happened if he was not part of that equation.
Yeah.
So we're blessed.
People say that douchebags kind of get sorted out at the door, and I know that there are probably some black belts out there that are not good people. I'm aware.
I could think
I'm
of a
aware
few
of a couple.
names.
Yeah,
But
I know. But by and large,
yeah,
most people that are able to stick it out and keep training and are have been in this art for a long time. Typically speaking, you have to be a relatively decent human being, or your ego's going to kind of force you out. What has been the most humbling thing that you've experienced in jiu-jitsu?
oof, that is a good question, because there are multiple things. Mainly and this is okay. So I've got a couple instances. So for one, it's like I have an unhealthy attachment to competing. We've been over that to the point where, Mary has to tell me to slow down. But that's also kind of where I find my worth as a jujitsu, people that, a person that trains jujitsu. And so losing to somebody that I feel that I should have not lost to, um, sucks, at the same time. So it's very humbling with that. It's like realizing that just because you're rolling good in a gym of people that you train doesn't mean that you are world level. So you have to realize that, humble yourself, and then train the way that you need to train to stay sharp like that, which is vastly different than being gym class hero. And so it's a very insidious thing that happens. You're like, oh, well, I can hit these sweeps, I can do this, I'm ready for competition, where it's, it's like, well, okay, but you don't realize you're throwing X, Y, and Z sloppy because it works on a white belt or it works on a blue belt. It's like, you have to, and that was part of remembering what Emily Kwok, and also my instructor, they have the same, very similar outlooks on it. It's like, you have to play to everybody else's strengths, and you have to play to your weaknesses if you have skill level, a skill level gap. Like I can put my blue belts in a position where they can easily submit me, like, and am I going to humble myself enough to let them get there, or have them start there, because I need the help that they can give. Like, I've got a 220, 230 pound blue belt that was a very good wrestler. It's like, okay, I need to work on stand up. Am I gonna stand up with him, or am I gonna pull guard? It's like, no, you need to stay. Yeah, you have to stand up with him, because he's gonna push you the direction you need to go. Or the same token, have him start and mount with a head and arm, like a loose head and arm choke, and try to escape that submission. It's like, hey, he's big and he can squeeze. It's like, that's the type of training that you've got to do. It's like, you've got to kind of give them the handicap to be able to submit me, or to be able to submit you. And then that way you're working on your defense. You're working on places that you need to fill those like technical holes. and it's also getting them reps into a position that they're strong at, so they get to practice an A game for them, so everybody wins. But I would say, so remember I said that I was on the first like EBI heavyweight trials, or not trials, but it was a qualifier. They flew us out to El Paso, Texas, paid for a hotel room. They literally set this qualifier up like EBI because combat jiu-jitsu was the day after. And it was on a big stage outdoors. There was a metal band playing in the background. Like, we were all getting hyped up. Like, this was the coolest thing that I have ever been a part of.
Yeah.
And then I get my first round pick and I'm like, oh yeah, I got this in the bag. This is awesome. Like, I am going to make it to the finals. Like, I'm getting on EBI. This is what I've, like, the accumulation of everything that I've done has led to this moment. And then I lost in the first like 2 minutes. And I was like, you know what? I think I quit. You know, it's like, it was back on that, like, Mary had to talk me off of the ledge. And I was like, this is crap. And that was part of the reasons, like, I love Brandon McCaffrey like I did, because I'm sitting, like, I don't know if I was waiting on like a DoorDash delivery or something, but I was out in the lobby of the hotel, and the event had ended, and so the bus was coming back. You know, like, we drove our we had a rental vehicle, so we just drove back, you know, before the bus that took us, like, left and all that. No, excuse me, we took an Uber. No, I didn't drive there. And he came in and he's like, hey man, you okay? Like, he took the time to, like, you know, while I was waiting, I think I was just like sitting on one of the couches in there, and he recognized me that I had competed. He's like, you doing okay? I said, no, absolutely heartbroken. He's like, you know, and then he gave that line of, sometimes your most heartbreaking losses are necessary for your growth.
Yeah.
You know, and then he proceeded to show me all his details about Aoki locks. And I was like, cool. Like, not only did you make me feel better, now you're showing me something that's, like, you know, that's cool. I'm learning from the Brandon McCaffrey right now. So lifted my spirits. And then the other time was
awesome.
like, I, humbling moment was, and this is the coolest thing, like, this ended up being really cool, was a 66-year-old guy, look, older gentleman, comes into our gym, and his name's Bob. And he, you know, kind of hobbles in, looks old, you know, he's not very big. He's about maybe $170. And I'm half his age. I'm a competitor. I'm in shape, you know, and all this stuff. And you know, he had a sweater on, like, so I didn't see him. And he's, you know, he comes out of the bathroom and he's got his gi on and all this stuff. And he goes, you want to roll? And I said, sure, I'll roll. And I'm like, I'm thinking in my mind, like, I'm going to take it easy. Don't want to hurt him. Like, all this stuff. Like, I'm just going to match his pace.
Yeah.
He proceeds to knee cut past me so violently and then wrist lock me within 10 seconds. I said, okay, that's not going to happen again. And we rolled, and sure enough, he did it a second time. And I said, who are you? Like, he's like, oh, my name's, you know, he's like, I'm Bob, you know, I'm nobody.
Yeah.
He's like, I've won a couple IBJJF world championships, and, you know, it's like, I compete a lot. I said, okay, holy crap. Like, you clowned me in front of my entire gym. You're double my age. You know, it's like, I'm going to learn everything I can from you. Like, there was a moment where I had to be like, okay, that was really humbling, and I'm not going to get angry. Like, I had to tell myself, like, I'm not going to get upset about this, because I have an opportunity here to learn from somebody, because he lives here now, and he decided to train with us, you know, like, after that night, which has been a massive blessing, because he helps teach the classes. So we have 3 black belts at our school now. You know, it's like, I'm going to proceed to learn everything I can from you. He's a black belt under Hobson Mora, and actually just went down there and, like, trained with him for a week and come back. And so now I'm salivating. Like, next time I see Bob in class, I'm gonna be like, teach me everything he taught you. It's like, I need to know, you know? And so that was probably the 2 most significant moments right there.
You compete mostly in, and I'm asking because was this a no gi night? Like, did you have any idea what?
No, this was in the gi. This was in the gi. Yeah, it turns out, so he didn't wear a belt with bars on it. He was a 3rd degree black belt and been training 20 years. I'm like, okay, I didn't know that. I mean, not that it mattered. It's like, you know, it's incredible. He rolls fantastic, and he proceeds to beat all of us up in the gi. Like, he ties us up. It's wild. So huge blessing that he's there. But yeah, my last gi competition that made me like, this was one of the ones where Mary let me kind of quit on it. My last fight to win was in Orlando over the summer, and I fought up in weight, and this guy was 240 pounds and just ripped, big Brazilian guy. And I was 230 at the time, like full of water, like not cutting, just eating a meal. And like, I normally should fight around 215 to 220, and this guy whips me down so hard that my tricep tore in the match. I had to tap. It was 26 seconds. Like you see, like I have a video of it. My arm starts flailing because I literally can't grab with it, and I can't raise it. And he ends up finishing the whip down, and I go to turn towards him and my arm's not moving. I was like, okay, tap. Like, I don't know what the heck just happened. Mary thought I dislocated my shoulder. It was in the gi. She couldn't see what happened. And I was like, no, it's literally the back of my arm. Fortunately it's like, it wasn't bruising right away. And I started to get some movement back like a couple hours later. So we didn't go to the emergency room or anything, but I was like, you know what? I think I'm done with the gi, cause I see my only major injury training jiu-jitsu was that night. I'm like, okay, I'm going to stick with no gi so nobody can grip me that hard.
Yeah.
Which seems weird.
Well, and maybe you'll change your mind as you slow down a little bit.
Maybe. I know Bob makes fun of me because he's like, oh, you're not going to compete in the gi anymore. He said no gi is the easy 30% of jiu-jitsu, and he constantly like ribs me about it, even though I train in the gi, know, as much as I do no gi. But he's like, no, you should compete gi too. I'm like, not going to do it.
Yeah. Well, you should do what you want to do, right? I mean,
say what?
You should do what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. There'll be time for the gi. So what do you do to cultivate resilience, in a resilient mindset among your students?
Oh, so if anything, it's like we try to be as encouraging as possible. It's like if somebody's got a competition coming up, especially if the competition did not go their way, it's like we're encouraging. And not only it's like, hey man, it's okay. Everybody loses. And, and to kind of reinforce, like, cause I don't want to just give them the, oh gosh, the cliche, like, yo, you win or you learn, it's like, I do say it, but it's like, I try to reinforce that with like, okay, here's how we're going to fix it. Because you lost, it's like, I'll normally tell them, it's like, so my guys at Toro, we went 1-2 that night. My guys got subbed from Mount, and one of them actually got subbed with the same sequence that I got submitted by when I was in London a few weeks ago. And so I'm like, okay, for one, don't feel bad because I just got subbed with that. And two, it's like, now we know what we need to work on in the gym. It's like, we were going to teach something completely different. My wife and I teach in 2-week blocks. And I texted Mary right after it happened. I said, we need Mount escapes. That's what we should teach for the next 2 weeks. And she's like, okay, well, let's do it. And that's what we've been doing. So it's like, not only am I encouraging, but then I give them a realistic answer of like how we're going to fix what happened, and so that if you give somebody kind of encouragement without maybe a direct plan, this is my belief of how to fix what current problem was, it kind of instills like it doesn't give them much confidence. It's like, oh, you're just saying that because, you don't want me to quit the gym and like lose a membership. It's like, no, I actually care. I'm actually invested in this. It's like, I want you to continue and get better. And then through that, it's like, competing and, kind of relating to what's going on with them and giving them a route to fix it. It's like, it's encouraging them to keep going. And then that makes them more resilient because they don't stop. Like in whatever adversity they're facing, it's like they have a plan to make it through. And I think, the more you go through like that, the tougher that's going to make you, smooth seas never made skilled sailors, and while I encourage competition, I don't push it, so anybody that comes to me and wants to compete, I'm all in. It's like, all right, let's get you ready.
What percentage of people do you think compete in your gym?
I think about 25. I was like maybe 1 in 4. And it's, some surprising people have come forward and be like, okay, I want to compete. And like, and it's awesome, and sometimes they surprise themselves with how good they can do, even though they may not win. It's like, we had one guy up in IBJJF Charlotte that he did not want to train jiu-jitsu. So he started as a personal training client in our gym. Eventually he started jiu-jitsu, started like once or twice a week. Now he's at every class. And then a couple months ago, he's like, I think I want to compete. I think I want to try it. He's in his 40s. He's a big, tall guy. And he ended up facing the blue belt Pans winner for Masters 2. He almost armbarred him. And like in the last 3 seconds, he had an extended arm bar and didn't have time to pull the arm down before the buzzer went off. And I was like, you had that match. You didn't lose. It's like you just ran out of time.
Yeah.
So he wasn't even upset about that. He's like, that was really cool to just see that I could do that. Like I didn't just get waxed. He's like, it was at least competitive. And I was like, exactly. So he's open to it again and stuff like that, and I don't know if for those that don't compete, I think the resiliency factor just comes in with like, if I ever see anybody that gets discouraged, like I'm pretty good at picking up on when people are discouraged because I get that way myself. It's like I talk to him. It's like, dude, it's normal. It's like and I'll hit him with the cliche, you're the hammer and the nail. It's like you're going to be there for a little bit. You're going to focus on defense, and then you're slowly going to start seeing things. Eventually it's going to click. You're going to have an aha moment. You're going to go. But the only way you're going to get there is to keep going as much as it sucks,
Yeah.
And I also tell people that they're frustrated. They're like, that it doesn't feel like I'm improving. It's like, well, think about it like this, and I'll try to reframe it for them. Think about everybody that's in class with you is growing at the same rate. The only time that you're going to see any kind of difference is when somebody new comes in, something clicks for you, or if somebody that was a normal training partner for you has to take like a hiatus for a little bit and comes back, and you're going to see that jump. It's like, do I ever wish for that last one to happen? No. It's like, I hope everybody trains forever, but it's inevitably going to happen. It's like we have people that leave, whether it be on life catches up with them. They have to take a break, or, like we said, we're in a Navy town. Sometimes they're deployed for 3 to 6 months and they come back, and then they'll see that difference and be like, okay, you were right. It's like, I am improving, but it's kind of hard to see when everybody else is going up at the same level too. And like kind of once they see that, it reinforces and it kind of shoots them out of those blues, and then they realize it's just a temporary feeling.
I think that's why a lot of blue belts quit. Is I think that even as a white belt, you're still going to experience some of that, right? You're going to have these peaks and valleys, but I think that when people get into that blue belt, at least among hobbyists, that those peaks and valleys are still there, and you're still finding those pain points before you've really kind of come into your own. And even when you have it, you still have moments where Bob comes in and wrist locks you. So,
as there was a moment where I was like, I'm done. I'm done.
yeah. What am I doing here?
If I can't hold my own against somebody who's literally old enough to be my dad, it's like, I don't think I belong in this sport. But it was either I could think like that or think of like, okay, now he's willing to come and train with you and you can learn everything that he knows and become better. It's like, then that reframe of mind meant a lot. And that was the big difference. And that's something that I hate seeing just in black belts in general. And you see it sometimes when visitors go to school and they'll tap the black belt, or if a student taps a black belt, it's like the black belt will get pissy, and I hear about it online. It's like, why? It's like, if somebody's better, I crave being in a room where somebody can literally beat the mess out of me. Like when I go up to visit my coach, Brian, he's in Albany, New York. I get smoked by him and a good bit of the other black belts in that room. And instead of getting mad, I have to be like, this is what I wanted. This is why I trained here. This is the opportunity for growth that I need, because they obviously know something and are doing something that I don't. So I'm going to make it my mission before I leave to fix whatever holes I can in my game of why they're beating me. And every time, like, I come home and I see a jump, and so it's a big thing. It's like if a student taps you, guess what? They're learning. That's literally what they're paying you for, is to teach them how to beat you, and you're succeeding at your job. So there's no excuse to get angry if a student submits you. It's like, wow, okay, that's maybe they're growing. Maybe it's time to, evaluate some things. Maybe it's something that I'm doing stupid. It's like, but you should be grateful for the opportunity to be able to fail or lose so you can improve.
Well, if anything, it exposes a blind spot, maybe.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're training with the same people over and over and over again. I know what Tommy does. Tommy does what I do. and when there's something random thrown in there and you're like, I haven't seen that before, then that's a learning moment. I know that, so we just had, I don't know if you wrestled, but a guy named JD Bergman just joined our academy.
Oh, wow.
He was a heavyweight national champion, Ohio State wrestler. And,
Ohio's good. I'm sure he's a
so,
pleasure to stand up with.
so I have not grappled with, he like literally just joined. I haven't even rolled with him yet. Um, but I mean, this guy, kids in my son's generation had JD Bergman's poster on their wall, as far as wrestlers.
So he's somebody in that.
He's an Olympic level wrestler. And I didn't know who he was, and he was in a class. He was drilling with one of our black belts, and I thought, oh, must be like an instructor from another school has popped in to just train a little bit. And it's no gi, so you know we don't. There's no belts, and I was rolling with one of our white belts, and I'm like, who is that guy? Like, is he a visitor? He goes, no, he's a white belt. And I was like, no, that is not a white belt. There's
There's no way.
no shot. I said, no, really. He's like, yeah, he goes to my church, and then he told me, he's JD Bergman. And so I'm looking forward, like, as much as I know I'm going to have nothing for this guy. I mean, he's going to destroy me if he wants to when we roll. Maybe he won't, but probably he will. I'm looking forward to getting an opportunity to train with somebody that has that level of wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
And
how many opportunities does one get that?
you don't, unless they're in your
incredible.
gym. So, yeah, then we'll have him on the podcast. And to your point, actually, my guest before you, Michael Ocampo, he has Henzo Gracie, the Grove down in Houston. He's an instructor. We used to train like back in 2012 together. But he's 5'4". He's like 140, 150 pounds maybe. And he was talking about like when he knew that he wanted to open an academy, when he was a blue belt, there was a fake black belt came into the gym, but he was a big dude. He was a really big dude. And so in his head, he's like, if I was an instructor, I don't know that I could take that guy because he's that much bigger, and whether he's a fake, or not, like, could I take that guy? And obviously Mike's gotten to the to a black belt and confidently probably would. But there's that question, like, if you're an instructor and somebody beats you, how do you handle that?
It's a tough one. It
Mm-hmm.
really is. It's like, cause, and I think people like in your head, especially like in an instructor's brain, it matters more to you, and you think your students care about it more than they actually do. It's like, they're like, oh, you got tapped by that. Cool. Whatever. It's like, he's good. Well,
Yeah.
but it matters less. It's like just being in school. It's like everybody else is worried about what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure the white belt getting strangled does not care that a visitor that's pretty good tapped you out.
Well, it's like, obviously if you're on the EBI stage, it's different, but like, guys that are competing in their, it's a grappling industries or something along those lines, or an IBJJF, nobody's watching you. Go out and compete.
Yeah.
It's
It's
it's not a stadium where everybody's watching you one-on-one. There's 8 other mats with competitors out. Nobody's watching you. Just go do your thing.
Oh yeah. And that was so the EBI qualifier that I brought up, the first one I went to where I lost first round, had probably 3 or 4 different groups of people text me with a full house watching on Flow Grappling. I was like, oh my gosh. Like it's like I tried not to broadcast it, but it was almost like putting me in an existential crisis. Like, if there is ever a moment I can't mess up, it's right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't even imagine. I mean,
And it went south so hard, and I was like, oh, this is embarrassing.
before I
But
was married, and this is totally, I can't imagine being at that level. But when I was dating my wife, we were still fairly early on. I was competing, and the first match of the morning, the absolute, I lost. And I lost to a guy I shouldn't have lost to. I screwed up. I had taken him down. I had passed. I had side control. I was, and I went to a neon belly, and I was a white belt, and so I got swept, and I lost. And then she texts me and she goes, "Hey, uh, Miles and I are going to come down for your, the afternoon bracket, which Miles is her son." And this guy that had just beat me, was in my division, my weight division. I was like, my new girlfriend and her son are going to come down, and I've got to get this guy that already beat me, subbed me. They may come down and see me get my ass kicked, and and like this is like worst nightmare scenario when you're dating somebody, and it's new. So I had all day to think about it. The absolute match was at like 9 a.m. and my bracket didn't come around till like 3. So I sat in this gym for hours, just like, okay. It worked out. I ended up winning my division and beat that same guy twice later the
Heck
afternoon.
yeah.
But if people are like, again, getting back to the nobody was watching me except for maybe, my girlfriend and her son and my coach. But outside
Yeah.
of that, nobody cared. Nobody who,
Right.
random Joe.
And
So,
I don't know if you follow Keith Krikorian at all,
yeah.
like on socials, but he's had a lot of motivating posts lately, and he's been somebody that I've been able to hang around a little bit, like at tournaments. Like we have some mutual friends, so it's like we normally talk with each other if we see,
Mm-hmm.
if we're at the same event, and it's been really cool to see him kind of take that approach on socials. Is like now he's becoming encouraging to other grapplers coming up, and that was one of his things. Is like the losses don't matter. It's like keeping going does. Is like they matter. The losses matter more to you than it does other people. And it was really an interesting moment seeing other like a high level grappler like say that. It's like because you don't often see a lot of those guys that are still active on the competition circuits talk about mindset, and especially ones because Keith's had some amazing wins and he's also had some heartbreaking losses with things. And it's like I have a lot of respect for him for just keeping going. It's like, and I think the thing is too, it's like it's impressive when people can see you lose and then come back and win or just keep going, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody else is, if they are paying attention to you is like, oh man, it's like, I don't know if I'd keep going, but you still do. And the show of resilience and like hard headedness to quit, or you're too hard headed to quit is something to be respected in general. I often say I'm too stupid to quit. And I think that's more true than anything. Like I have literally nothing else, you know, so I have
Well,
no choice but to keep going.
yeah, it's, it, social media for all of its negatives, has been pretty awesome as it relates to jiu-jitsu, and being able to see guys like Keith posting things. You've got a good channel. You're on TikTok, you're on Instagram as well, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I found you on TikTok. But people are able to share technique, but they're able to share mindset and their lifestyle, and you know the mental sides of what it is to train and compete in this thing that we call jiu-jitsu. Without the social media, I think social media is probably one of the biggest growth factors for jiu-jitsu. I mean,
Imagine like back in the day before Instagram and Facebook and all this stuff, it's like unless you were personally learning from somebody
mm-hmm.
or had like a VHS tape, like I remember, you know, the grapplers like, that I looked up to, they're like, oh man, I'd had this BJJ instructional VHS and I would, watch it until it literally broke. And it's like,
Yeah.
man, imagine that. It's like we live in such a golden time of an access of information. That's why it's like it's kind of a two-edged sword. It's like, can you get behind people that do get their black belts in 3 years, like, well, not like Buddy Berg, but other people like my coach Brian, he told me he got his in under 5 years. He didn't agree with it either. But at the same token, it's like, he's a year older than I am and so he's been training a lot longer, but at the same time it's like during the age of information, it's like the access to things has become so easy. It's not like back in the 90s where it was hardcore 10 years to become a black belt, because that's how long it took you, to find this information, to go train with people, to like really put in the hours. But now it's like my algorithm I pull up on my phones, like I've got information from, high level competitors and they're just giving that out for free. And it's like, okay, cool. Like I'm going to look at this. I'm going to try. Or, same thing with like BJJ Fanatics is I can literally I can log into a website and get high level information from Gordon Ryan myself, like in 30 seconds,
Did you
you
know
know?
that you can also, because we're entering the age of AI, you can take a clip, a jiu-jitsu clip without context, and you can plug it into ChatGPT and tell it to give you a breakdown of the technique, how to do it, how to apply it, and it will literally spit stuff out at you.
So in my game plan for ADCC trials, I did that with every competitor in my division to find out what game I would need to play statistically to win.
That's outstanding. Hey, that's, you know
So
what?
I'm coming.
That's why football coaches don't only work on Sundays, right? You got to, you got to study and break it down. AI is making it completely uh so much easier to find stuff. That's, when I was researching you, believe me, ChatGPT did a lot of, most of the legwork.
Yes. Chat
Um,
is flow grappling hurt my feelings. Is like, of course, is like I'm on a board day. I was like, hey, who is Sean McCleary? The grappler, and they're like, oh, he's 1-4 on flow grappling, and I spit my drink out. I was like, no, I'm not.
yeah, you do still have to
Yeah.
babysit and make sure it's giving you accurate information.
Well, and then it's like, yeah, it's yeah, I'm like, wow, I felt the knife go in, and I was like, I thought we were friends, but it
Yeah.
was, everything else is like, it's scary how quickly, like, especially if you have like the paid versions, how quickly that information updates
Mm-hmm.
and how easy is like, I barely use Google anymore. Like I'll say, hey, give me sites for X, Y, and Z. It's like if I'm searching for something or need information, and then your prompts to like, hey, use relevant information that is like verified online, and like it will give you everything you need to know.
You can also tell it to think longer. Say, don't worry about speed. I want you to think as long as it takes to be accurate. And it will take a little longer to spit information out, but it's much more accurate.
Yeah. I
Um,
will I will need to add that prompt in.
yeah. Um, yeah. It's jujitsu, and I remember back before social media days. So I've been an off on again hobbyist for a long time, and I was doing jujitsu before I had a Facebook, and
You were doing it back before it was cool.
uh, yeah, what I don't. Yes, we'll go with that. I think it was pretty cool back then too. But back then, I mean, black belts weren't, you know, the idea that there would be 3 black belts on the same mats at the same time.
It's a huge deal.
I
Like
know.
my wife's been training for almost 16 years.
Yeah.
So if that puts you in, so I've been doing 11. So she trained 5 more years longer than me. So she started around 2000, circa 2011 ish.
Hmm.
Her first instructor was a blue belt. She
Yep.
said the only black belt she ever knew was Scott, and like that was apparently extremely fortunate that he was just in the area, and then hearing stories of him was like he moved to Georgia from Hawaii, and he had black belts from Atlanta calling him and be like, hey, what are you doing in Georgia? It's like
Yeah.
this is kind of my area, and it's like now there's 5 black belts in my town alone, in my little
Yeah.
town that I can name off the top of my head. And I was like, it's amazing how much it's exploded. But yeah, back then it was rare. Like a purple belt was a unicorn,
Yeah.
let alone a black belt.
Yeah. My instructor, Robin Giesler, I mean, we're in double digits of black belts. Our jujitsu school's been around since 92. It was
Holy
one of the,
moly.
yeah.
Holy.
Yeah, so they were learning from Helson Gracie back, like Dr. Hudson, the guy that opened our gym. He was training with the Gracies. He was part of that first Gracie training, the first UFC. But other than him, there were no other black belts in this area in Central Ohio. And then, when I moved to South Carolina, and there was Casey Callias, and there might have been one other in Charleston, South Carolina. Moved to Idaho, and I was learning from a brown belt. Keith Owen was kind of the next town over, and
I
rest in
man,
peace. But
I know. It's I that was actually somebody that I looked up to and watched a lot of his videos.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. He yeah. used to watch his videos as well. I was bummed when I saw that he had passed, and he was just, his gym was like just a little bit too far for me to go train there. And I had an amazing school at it was it's SBG Idaho now. But my point is, there were not now there's black belts, more available. Where a student starting today, the idea of training at a gym that doesn't have a black belt, those are far and few between, which that used to just be the norm. So
Oh yeah, it's wild to think about. It was like, what do you mean you didn't train with a black belt when when you started? It's like there
yeah,
was none. Like it
yeah,
was so young, and it's interesting to be in a sport. And I normally describe jujitsu as being as like I know we're in the golden age of technology for it, but we are also very much in the wild west. There is no
mm-hmm.
governing body for this sport. It's like you see new promotions, new rule sets, like all this stuff. And I have parents ask me all the time, it's like, because again, we're in a Navy town. It's like, so what does it mean like when we go to a different school after you've given my kid a yellow belt? And I'm like, well, their instructor's going to have to take kind of you at your word that, and mine, that I gave that to you, that you were deserving of it. It's like there's no governing body, and there's no like set standard that schools have to follow. It's to their individual discretion.
Yeah,
There's no standardized test. And me personally, I love it that way. I
bingo.
love it that way. Because you look at the like the IJF or International Judo Federation or whatever. I'm not sure what exactly it's called, but it's like, because then you start getting the rule sets changed and unified rules and what you can and can't do, and then all that stuff, and it kind of takes away the personalization of it a little bit in my mind. But
That's what
besides,
I like
it's
the most about jujitsu
oh
is
yeah,
it's not cookie cutter. You can't, you know, and we talk about this a lot, but my game is not going to be like anybody else's. There'll be similarities, and I can learn from other people, but everybody's game is completely unique.
absolutely.
When I was doing Japanese jiu-jitsu, there was it was called a Budo passport, and that was kind of their way to validate your rank if you moved or something. It was just a little card that had a signature that you were a yellow belt or a blue belt or um, whatever. But I like the individuality in jujitsu. Uh, you know, even my rash guard collection is getting kind of crazy. I'll have to
Oh
add
yeah,
some schismatic gear.
dude,
Um,
always.
so do you think we might be able to get Mary onto the show sometime? Would she be
Absolutely.
into it? Because I need to get female perspectives onto this
No,
podcast.
she'd love to.
Okay.
She would love to. And it would be unique from her perspective, because she really, so she's been around to be a female in the sport since 2011. Like, you know, wasn't a lot wasn't a lot of females back then, and it's interesting to see, like, the culture change over time of like it's a more women friendly sport now, depending on the gym you go to. But to see, like, I have a lot of respect for women that have stuck with it. Again, Emily Kwok, like one of the OGs, like early black belt, and first like ADCC, like some of the first women ADCC competitors, like they stuck through a lot. They went through a lot
I can't
to
even
get where they
imagine.
were, and it's like to be, smaller, to not be as strong, to be in a male dominated sport. It's like we don't know that perspective at all. And it's very like enlightening to kind of hear the stories, and experiences that they went through. And it's like, man, like I had no idea, like that
Yeah.
really sucks, and it's like it adds to the validity of, their rank. Cause it's like, you had to go through way more crap than I did to get where you are.
Especially
Yeah.
being heavyweights,
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
It's like I make Kimura go Burt, there's no technique behind it. I grip it, and, you could just fudge the numbers with strength. It's like, they don't have that luxury. It's like it
no,
has to be technique. But that's why Mary's such a good coach. And that's why it's like I refer to her as head coach, because her technique is far superior to mine, because she had to go through so much to get that technique sharpened. If I could speak English, it's it, as opposed to it's like, oh, I grab here and here and just pull really hard. cool, works. It's no comparison.
Yeah, that's actually one of the reasons why I like watching women's jiu-jitsu in women's divisions. Sometimes more than watching the men is they are so technical, and they have some mobility in their hips that men just don't have, and so they can pull things off that a dude's never going to do.
They are aggressive too. Like, it is
Yeah.
very entertaining. Like,
Yep.
I will, with as much enthusiasm, watch women's ADCC divisions as I will the guys. Like, I'll be honest with you, the women's division in the last CJI 2 was way more entertaining than
Yeah.
the teams for the men's. Way more entertaining.
Bella Mir's match in the UFC BJJ, I think it was 2, may have been 3, but have you watched any of those?
I have.
The jiu-jitsu is good. It's aggressive jiu-jitsu. They're rewarding an attacking style. So I think they're doing it in a way that like a casual fan that may not even train jiu-jitsu might actually still be entertained.
Yeah.
And
That's definitely a source of, like, people often ask me, is like, when I'm on my live streams, is like, what do you think of UFC BJJ? I was like, well, I think it's good because it's going to get more people, that it's going to get more eyes on the sport that wouldn't normally watch it. It's like, do I agree with, exclusivity contracts to compete? No. Because again, I don't like being limited, like a governing body over the sport I don't think is a great idea. But, I think that so many people associate, like, if you tell anybody on the street, it's like, hey, do you watch UFC? You're going to get a definite answer. You're never going to get, I don't know what that is.
right. Yeah.
So,
Well, and if they paid athletes well enough to have exclusive contracts, that would be one thing.
yeah. Well, it's
But
like
if
one
they're
championship giving 50 grand bonuses out, for wins. It's like, oh man, of course.
yeah, then somebody could actually make that a full-time job where, yep, I'm a UFC guy. But they're not doing that. At least I don't think they are. I don't know what the contract details are, but I'm sure that these guys all have day jobs or they're coaching in their academies, and
For sure.
so you shouldn't be held to any sort of exclusivity if you're not paying them.
Yeah, it's like, it begs the question. It's like, if you were to ask me, like, if Dana White or Moja Sim approached me and was like, hey, would you rather compete ADCC or would you rather compete UFC BJJ? Hands down ADCC. It's because I can go compete other organizations. It's like ADCC's been around longer. It's like, I know they're going to take care of people. Same thing with CJI. UFC kind of has a notorious, lack of pay for fighters, and I'm sure that is not lost on the grapplers there, but it could differ, and it's gotten obviously higher over the years. But
I literally just saw a post yesterday, maybe even early this morning. Bryce Mitchell,
he
he
doesn't
was
have
on
insurance to fix his nose.
right. Yeah, so his nose is completely busted, and he can't afford to go get his nose fixed because he's not under contract for a current fight. So UFC doesn't cover it. Like, man, that's yeah, you got to take care of your fighters if you want them to be exclusive. That's
Saying it's like,
full
it's
stop.
like you think, if it's like, because it's essentially, it's an entertainment show. You have to protect the entertainers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because
if your talent pool runs dry, you have nothing.
No, and I think that's why a lot of the jiu-jitsu, I know they have Musamechi, but that's why they're not getting, Ryan Gordon and Craig Jones, and because I promise they have enough money in that organization, they could probably get those guys.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, Craig Jones stepping back from competitions, I think, because he's probably done just about everything. He doesn't have to compete anymore to make money. Like, he's made such a name for himself now to where it's like he has the Fair Fight Foundation, or is like where he's building schools over in Peru, and stuff like that. And that's obvious. That has to be infinitely more fulfilling than winning a match. It's changing people's lives through actually giving them jujitsu. And then same thing, like, everybody's going to book Craig Jones for a seminar, his instructionals, his gym, wherever he opens, he's going to be successful because he's just known.
Yeah.
That's why I would not be surprised if Gordon never competed again. It's like, he doesn't have to.
No, his gym's always going to be packed, even with, I think it's like I think the monthly fees like $400 or something to train
That's
in his
insane.
gym. And there's a waiting list though. It's like, we'll call you when we have room.
Yeah. I
So
can't imagine, like, I can't fathom running a gym that's that successful. Like we've had some pack max nights, but we've never had it in our wildest dreams where I was like, hey, I want to sign up to your gym. No, we
yeah,
don't have room, you know? Which, yeah, that's just so wild.
yeah.
But
Well,
it
if
comes, he's
you
put in a lot of work.
if you keep doing what you're doing with your gym, it'll keep growing. You'll get to that point. Gracie, Ohio actually was closed enrollment for some of the kids groups. They were completely full.
It's awesome.
But they've also been around for 30 years. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so time. And it sounds like you are putting the right kinds of energy into what you're doing. And
We're hoping. I mean, it's like we constantly, that's one of the things, like we could make more money with it if we wanted to, but the demographic of the area and the average income and stuff like that, it's like I'm never going to get away with charging 200, 150, $400. It's like we keep it as low as we can. Like kids are $65 to train at our gym for the month.
that's it.
You know,
Wow.
adults are 100, and if you have like a family member in the same household, like if a husband and wife wants to train, it's $150. It's like I take half off a second membership, and it compounds from there. It's like, so we have full families training at our place for like under $200, and it's just because I'd rather have more people. And what money we do get out of it is like we reinvest. Like last year we we doubled our space. So our rent used to be $800. It went to 900, and then now it's average. We had
Yeah.
a guy buy the building and raise rent, but he was super cool, and we love him. And this is like we have no problem paying like what we should be paying for
Yeah.
rent. Because we figured that day was going to come anyway, and so we saved for it and like spent appropriately. But he let us take over the unit next to us and build out that one too. And so we doubled our space. And then last month we put in a pit wall, and then like, we're putting boxing bags up for those that want to do it. We have a workout area. It's like we've got a sauna now, and we have an ice bath. And it's like, it's just continuously trying to make our gym better for the members that, want to go there. And I believe in making money through volume,
Hmm.
not, jacking up the price on people that are already paying, because it's like we're in a Navy town. It's like just enlisted members don't make a lot of money. It's like I would still like them to have an outlet and train, is the same for everybody.
Yeah.
That's like, I don't believe a family should be paying like $400 or $500 for their entire family to have something fun to do. It's like, even if I had the money, it's like I don't know if I would realistically spend that because it's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, and it's been a long time now. When I was a private in the Marine Corps, I think my paychecks were about $200. It was, every 2 weeks. And different times now, I'm sure, obviously it's more than that. But no, I appreciate the fact that, if you're keeping things in line with what your demographic can afford, you're going to have more people. And as you keep leading your gym in a mindful kind of way, you're never going to be short of students, and you'll be successful. So
It's like I said, it's been a blessing. It's like I give credit to God for that one. But it's been an interesting journey. It's like 6 months after we opened, we were busy enough to where I could quit nursing full time. Or well, I mean altogether. Excuse me. I went part time when we opened it. In between the rash guard company and the gym, it's like we are solely like self-employed.
that's
And I was like, that
outstanding.
was cool. Um, and then so it's just been going from there. But yeah, it's definitely like our baby. We have to protect it, and do everything right by that. So it's different. It was wild stepping away from security, like an assured paycheck as long as I did my job, to this where, even though it's like theoretically, it's like I try not to take anything for granted. It's like, I mean, look at what's going on right now. No federal workers are being paid. It's like our gym could be swept out from under us because if none of our students, which most of them are government employees, could afford to pay right now, we don't have a gym. It's
Yeah.
like, so I try to be grateful for everything that we have, even if it's a bad day, and that's helped as well.
Oh, good. Well, Sean, I am going to wrap this episode up. Um, I appreciate you coming in.
Absolutely.
And
Thanks for having me.
to any listeners, obviously, huge thanks to Sean McCleary for sharing his experience and his journey from boxing to black belt. Um, if you want to follow Sean and Mary's Academy or check out Schismatic Industries, you'll find the links in the show notes. And all that, as always, keep training, keep rolling. Um, if you have questions about the show, you can always reach out on Instagram or TikTok. Still Rolling BJJ. Thanks again.